there, welcome once again to It's a Mystery, and another collection of weird and wonderful mysteries that we will attempt to solve.
As usual, we've been out collecting some of the most unbelievable stories that you're ever likely to hear.
And in the studio, we're going to be attempting to shed some light on other very weird goings-on.
We reveal what was so unusual about this man who went out for an evening stroll.
Tristan reveals how a humble seagull could save a woman's life.
And in the studio, we have a real-life vampire.
Gail has got an amazing story. It's a mystery. What had happened to someone's husband one evening last summer?
Imagine this. One evening, a lady's pacing the floor of the family home, worried about her husband. She can't work out where he's got to. As the hours tick by, the lady grows more and more anxious for news. She continues to wait and wait. And then, at 5:20 in the morning, all of a sudden she jumps as the doorbell rings. She goes to open the front door, and there, on the doorstep, standing large as life, is her husband, in his pyjamas.
Where on earth have you been? I've been worried sick about you.
I've been jogging.
What?
Jogging.
Jogging? Well, I'm glad you're okay. Why don't you go in there and I'll bring you a nice cup of tea.
The lady knew exactly what she was going to do. Call the emergency services.
Police?
So, hold on. What's going on? Where had her husband been to in the middle of the night? And why was he still in his pyjamas? And why on earth did she then rush off to call the emergency services? So why do you think someone would want to do that? Was the man that had turned up not really her husband after all? Well, here's what had happened.
A few hours earlier, the husband had been fast asleep in hospital after an operation. In a deep, deep sleep, without once waking up, he unbelievably got out of bed. Wearing his pyjamas and slippers, he strolled down the stairs. Still asleep, he walked out of the building to cross the main road, managing to dodge the traffic. At first, no one in the hospital noticed, but soon hospital staff did realise that he had gone missing and called his wife to let her know.
Hello? Hospital? Gone missing? What do you mean, missing?
So she had spent the evening at home worrying and waiting for news.
But how could he disappear?
Meanwhile, her husband continued to walk and walk through the city centre. Next, he walked through a large residential estate, and after 5 miles, he ended up at his own home, where he rang his own doorbell and came face to face with his wife.
Where on earth have you been? I've been worried sick about you.
I've been jogging.
What?
Jogging.
Jogging? Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Wow! So he'd actually got out of his hospital bed and sleepwalked all that way? What an unbelievable story.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it? Surely you can't do all that stuff in your sleep, though.
Well, hang on, I've been doing some research, and you know, it's not as ridiculous as you might think. Sleep experts say that people are able to do many things when they're technically asleep. They're even capable of doing complicated things, like driving a car.
Yeah, but walking 5 miles is a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
You'd be surprised, you know. In June of last year, there were reports in the press of a man called Michael Turner who made an amazing 5-mile walk from his hospital bed to his front door. Now, after his ordeal, he went back to hospital and is well on his way to recovery. The weirdest thing is, he remembers nothing about it.
What? Nothing at all?
Well, except that he had very sore feet.
Yeah, sleepwalking does happen, but look, don't worry. What happened to the man in this story is very rare indeed. And if someone does sleepwalk, they usually go straight back to bed and remember nothing when they wake up.
Do you like a good spooky story full of ghosts, monsters, or even one of the most famous bloodsuckers of all time, vampires?
Well, it's a mystery whether vampires really do exist.
The vampire legend is as popular today as it was hundreds of years ago and was made really famous by a novel called Dracula. The author came up with the idea after having a nightmare, and since then there have been hundreds of books and films dedicated to this vampy, blood-sucking villain.
Well, it's all very well sitting around talking about vampires, but what would you actually do supposing you came face to face with one?
Tris!
Hey?
It's behind you!
Well, the books say to see him off, just wear this stuff, garlic, around your neck.
And what about the old classic, a stake through the heart, or even exposure to sunlight? But are vampires simply a figment of people's imagination? Could there really be such a thing as a real-life vampire? Could there really be bloodsuckers roaming the earth, preying on unsuspecting victims? What do you think?
Well, believe it or not, there are. We can categorically reveal that the deadliest bloodsucker of them all is amongst us today, a real-life vampire.
It's been said that if you don't count wars and accidents, it is responsible for over half of all human deaths since the Stone Age.
This creature is fond of the odd drop of blood or two.
And this is it. Oh! Look at them. They may only look like tiny insects, but they're actually considered the most dangerous creature in the world. These are a type of mosquito called Anopheles mosquito. By sucking blood from one person, then moving on to suck blood from another person, mosquitoes can cause the spread of malaria. Malaria is a disease that afflicts 200 million people each year, but only in the wet tropical regions of countries like Africa, South America and Asia.
And you know, there are other bloodsuckers around. In Central and South America, there's the vampire bat. But despite its name, it very rarely attacks humans. And one thing's for sure, it certainly can't drink enough blood to kill anyone. In fact, it drinks about a tablespoon of blood at a time from animals like horses, cattle and birds.
And finally, here's a good vampire. This one is a medicinal leech. Oh, now leeches like to suck blood too, but they can be used to help patients in hospitals, not harm them. And believe it or not, by letting these leeches feed on patients, it stimulates the blood flow and it can make all the difference to helping a wound heal after some very special skin operations and surgery.
Tristan, that's disgusting. Look, they're all over the place.
Yeah, I know, it is disgusting, but they're totally clean and they really can help.
So there are good bloodsuckers like leeches and bad bloodsuckers like mosquitoes, which proves that creatures with vampire tendencies really do exist. But as for Dracula, nah. Okay, here's one for you. Do you believe that people and animals can have some sort of special relationship, you know, some sort of special bond? Well, here's an incredible tale. It's a mystery how a seagull saved a woman's life.
One afternoon, Diane Forrester decided to go for a walk, as she often liked to do. She walked along the sea cliffs of her seaside hometown, breathing in the fresh air, checking out the views. She was totally unaware of the events that were about to unfold. As she was walking along her usual route, suddenly she somehow managed to stumble, falling over the cliff to a ledge below. Diane was shocked and too badly hurt to move. As she lay there, she began to think she'd never be found. However, miraculously, sometime later, her sister Shirley walked to the very spot along the cliff edge where Diane had fallen over. As if by chance, Shirley looked out over the cliff and saw her sister lying there, hurt.
Diane, you all right? I've twisted my ankle. I can't move. Hang on, I'll go and get some help.
Shirley quickly went to alert the emergency services to rescue Diane.
Here you are, Diane. Oh, here's your tea. Thank you.
After being taken to hospital, Diane went home to recover from a badly twisted ankle and severe bruising.
It's lucky I found you.
Yeah, really, absolutely.
Yeah.
What an incredibly lucky coincidence. Or was it? Could Shirley have known that her sister had fallen onto the deserted cliff edge? Could someone have seen the whole thing and phoned her? And hold on. Where did seagulls come into this strange tale? Well, I can guarantee what you're about to see is absolutely amazing.
As Diane lay there trapped on the ledge, she remembers a seagull hovering above her as she cried out for help in desperation. Meanwhile, Diane's sister was at her house doing some work in the kitchen, and suddenly she heard this tapping on the window. So she looked outside, and she saw a bird flapping around, as if it was trying to get her attention. The sister came out of the house, and the seagull flew off. She decided to follow the bird to see what was causing it such distress. As the bird flew, she followed, until eventually the gull hovered above the cliff edge. She looked over the edge and saw Diane down below.
Diane! Diane, you all right? Hold on, I'll go and get help.
So, a seagull helped save a woman's life, and although the gull was not a pet, the sisters recognised it as the wild bird that they had been recently feeding.
Don't you think that's remarkable? A seagull's all the same to me.
Yeah. Well, I've asked the experts who believe it is possible a seagull could have saved the woman's life. Now, they say female gulls especially can be very protective of male gulls bearing food, and they're capable of great tenderness.
So, because the sisters provided the seagull with food, it could have become very protective, looking after Diane in the only way it knew how.
Seems possible, doesn't it? What do you think?
Hi, my name is Police Sergeant Tony Dodd. Although I'm now retired, I will never forget an incident which I witnessed when I was on a routine patrol. It was January 1978. I was on patrol with a colleague when we were called to an incident near Skipton, North Yorkshire. It was a crystal clear night, and as we rounded a bend in the road, we were startled and shocked by what we saw. In front of us was a huge disc-shaped object with a dome on top. I was so convinced of what I saw that I got an artist to paint this picture of it. It was about 100 feet above the road. It had what appeared to be portholes around the dome. I stopped the car, and myself and my colleague got out and stared in amazement at the object. The whole object was luminous white and glowing, and around the underside was a skirting. It then silently glided away horizontally and moved away into the distance until it was only a ball of light. There is no doubt in my mind that this was a genuine UFO.
What an amazing story. So what could it have been? Had anyone else noticed anything that night? Well, Tony contacted Manchester Airport, but they had not picked up anything strange on their radar screens. So what was the mysterious object? Could the lights on a low-flying aircraft at night have been mistaken for a scary UFO? Well, this explanation doesn't seem possible because what he saw made no noise, and the description doesn't fit that of any plane known to us. Well, whatever it was, Tony has seen it more than once.
I'm convinced it was a UFO. I've even had other sightings since. My wife was a complete skeptic. One day she was out in the car with me when one of these things came down over the top of us. She has since changed her belief.
I've always taken these UFO sightings with a pinch of salt, but having witnessed them myself, I am now just as convinced as my husband.
Do you know what?
What?
It's a mystery to me how worms dig tunnels when they haven't got any arms or legs.
You know, you have got a point there. I never thought about that before. When you look at other animals that make tunnels, like moles and rabbits, they've got legs and paws so they can shovel away at the earth.
Like these ones, a little more than long, pink and brown, wiggly things. So how on earth do they dig tunnels? Well, the method they use is totally different to any other animal like a rabbit or a mole.
Now, if you look at these worms here in this special wormery, you can see they've actually made tunnels through the soil, and they did this by wiggling from side to side in a special wormy way.
Tristan, can I borrow you, please? I'd like to try and demonstrate this.
Yeah, sure.
Now, I'd like you to wiggle your way from one end of this tunnel to the other.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, just lie down.
Yeah, just...
No,
yeah.
no problem.
Yeah? Off you go. Oh, I forgot to mention something. I'd like you to do it without using your arms and your legs. Small point, forgot to mention it.
All right. What, so I just kind of...
Yeah, go on.
Come on, Tristan.
No, you're cheating.
I'm not.
You were cheating.
All right, it's impossible.
Do you want a
if I
hand?
don't.
You're right. I'm sorry, Tristan. I was actually just trying to make a point. We knew it'd be difficult. It was just to demonstrate that without arms and legs, it seems really, really difficult to move, let alone make a tunnel.
However, worms can do it because they move in a very special way, which involves them rhythmically contracting and expanding their bodies a bit like this. Now, if they do this enough times, they force an opening in the soil. They then increase the size of the hole by pushing with their heads first. And by repeating this special movement, they form networks of tunnels.
You might not think it to look at them, but worms are sort of like tubes. This means that they can shift soil to form tunnels in another special way. As the worm digs, it actually eats some of the soil. The soil travels the length of the worm and is expelled at the other end.
And when a real worm does this, the earth that it leaves behind on the surface is known as worm cast. Now, believe it or not, all the worms that live in a small field can shift about 300 of these bags of soil here. Now, that's around 7 tons in just a year.
Amazing, eh? And it's all done by squidging like a spring.
And passing soil through their bodies like a tube.
Hey, guys, are you keen for a nibble? It's not bad.
No, leave it to the
really
worms.
have a good...
Leave it to the worms.
Wiggling, actually.
Don't you dare.
Well, that's it. Another bunch of mysteries solved and plenty more remain unsolved.
But before you go, here's one last mystery for you to solve. A boy in a sweetie shop has 2 coins which add up to a total of 60 pence.
But if one of the coins is not a 10p, what are the 2 coins?
Can you solve it? We'll reveal the answer next time.
Ooh, we'll find out the answer to that one next week.
Yes, we will, but this is the answer to last week's mystery. A girl walks up to a counter to pay £5 for a book, but then...